Hello everyone, this is 2018 Skoda Superb Sportline diesel engine, a 2-liter diesel engine. And what I'm gonna do today is to do a little modification into the intake system. This is a very popular thing to do across these engines and other engines. The petrol engine, diesel engines are pretty much the same. They're very similar constructed. They share multiple parts. So if you want to upgrade or increase a little bit of the airflow into your engine, there's a few things that you can actually do. For the start, you can open the airbox, and then at the bottom, my one is missing already. There's a little plastic crate. They call the snow crate or snow filter or snow grid, which is basically a plastic mesh that sits on the bottom of the intake box. There's the opening from the outside that feeds the flow of air into the box. You can actually remove that to allow a little bit more of an airflow. And the other thing that you can do actually is get one of the less restrictive filters, such as a K&N or any equivalent. There's many brands and options in the market that will allow you a little bit more flow of air into the engine. There's then other things that you can do regarding the pipe that goes to feed the turbo and to the charge pipe that goes from the turbo to the intake manifold, but we'll get to that later on. There's also something that you can do on the scoop to the front of the vehicle to allow a little bit more flow or channel the air into the box. Basically, the air gets scooped to the front of the vehicle, collects by this duct, and that connects to the box and feeds the airbox. The problem is there is only one opening on this side actually, so the air has to travel all the way up here to there. There's also a opening that can be done on this corner, so it kind of directly straight the airflow into the box instead of being scooped through this corner, travel all the way and go in. Plus there's a little opening on this plastic actually there. This is actually open here. Okay, there's a plastic piece insert that you can buy to actually cover this, so you will channel all the airflow to the box by covering this here. Some of the airflow will be lost and will go inside the engine bay, so some people would actually cover that. I can put the part number into the description. I'm not gonna do it in this case because I want some airflow, and particularly to the diesel engine. The petrol engine is not applicable. This actually section open here feeds some cool air and ventilates the engine bay, and special is directly channeling into this piece here, which is the intake manifold. It's a chunk of metal. These modern engines, diesel engines, don't use the conventional intercooler, so don't have the conventional front-mounted intercooler as most of diesel engines would have. The turbo basically there would charge the air, travel all the way to the front, cool down by the intercooler, sort of a radiator, and then comes back again into the intake, into the intake manifold. These engines don't use intercooler. Basically, it's cooled down with the coolant system of the vehicle. So this is the manifold before it goes into the engine, and this little section here where these two hoses are connected is actually a radiator that flows coolant and is meant to cool down the air from the turbo before it gets into the engine. So there's a little matrix of radiator here, this section. So there's four. I'm not going to cover myself this opening here because I actually want some airflow to go and cool the engine bay and help cool this part. So I'm gonna get this pulled apart. There's a couple of screws. There's loads of videos and tutorial online regarding these engines, and special the Octavia and mostly the petrol engines, the GTIs and Golf R. They're very look-alike, they're very similar, slightly different on this section here of the grille, but pretty much the same duct and airbox. They are the same. This can be applicable into any Volkswagen engine, Skoda, Seat, anything from the Group Volkswagen, this can be done. So I'm going to pull this apart and show what exactly I'm going to do. Now eventually I removed this section, which sits in there, and then there's a cover. This cover is up there, so there's basically two screws that you need to remove off. You take the cover off, and there's another two screws and one of each corners, and a few clips that you need to unclip in order to remove this. So as you can see, this is the opening on the left hand side, which is open at the back, the one that you can actually buy a plate to cover that if you wish, or leave it open in my case, as I will do. And then this corner actually were attached to the scoop, as this scoop that goes inside of the airbox is actually blocked. It's shaped in a way same way as this side, but is actually blocked. So this is the opening that you will open. You'll get something, some people will drill and then cut the holes. I'm gonna use a multi-tool like a blade, and I'm gonna just cut all the plastics that are here to make it open, so the airflow can travel from here right straight into the box. So it'll be another opening to feed air into the box. Now, other part that normally people will neglect in some of these vehicles on the petrol engines is slightly different, because this thing sits actually above the grill, sits roughly here, so there's nothing obstructing it, so the air will flow between the bonnet and this section of the grill and feeds the airbox. This is on a petrol engine. The diesel engine are slightly different, they're a little bit lower, and so they'll be sheltered with this plastic section. Now this is what some people is missing to remove. This is a little bit more work. You're meant to remove actually the old bumper in order to remove this part. This part is clipped, and there's a few screws into the grill. They basically screw here, there's a couple of screws, including one here which is very difficult to access without taking the bumper off. I managed to actually squeeze some tools in it to remove it. You also have to remove the little hatch here for to release the bonnet. Basically this thing sits there. There's a little clip here that you can actually pull. You can actually pull that piece of plastic there. Okay, you pull that piece of plastic first, and then this thing, it's sitting here. You pull the little plastic clip there, plastic clip fitting there, which locks in place, and then you can actually pull it up, and that's it. So in order to remove this plastic that actually sits, and then the little latch works here anyway. So this is a bit more difficult. You're meant to remove the bumper, you can't do it without it. I'm not gonna lie, there's a screw here, is broken already. Probably someone was at it. There was a few other clips broken here, so I'd say someone has been playing with this before. I'm not gonna lie, probably I'm not gonna replace the screw here at the front, because it'll be very difficult access to screw it in, and I'll see how we get. If it's too much vibration, if it interferes anything with the little sonar on the front, then I will have to pull the bumper off and secure it. But I will see now with just one single screw. There's a pin there, so this thing will be secure in place. There's other few screws all the way, so I don't think it will cause any issues. If so, I will have to remove the bumper and secure this properly. Anyway, so this is the other piece that's attached to the airbox and then attached to the scoop. So I will open this anyway, and I'll show you guys. Plus, the other thing that I was talking about is this section here. So the air actually feeds through the grill to the bottom opening only. It is actually covered here, but there's a little section on the bottom on both sides that actually travels down to feed the radiator, to cool down the radiators anyway. So the only one that's open is on the left hand side, once again, because this is the only opening to feed the airbox. Now, if you open this section here, but leave this closed, It's not going to give you much of airflow because the grill is actually blocked here all the way up, so there's no air going traveling through these fins to feed the box here. So you might as well have to open this little section here, which is actually shaped the same way as this one. So you'll have to cut this plastic open so the airflow that goes through the grill, it actually goes up and feeds the new opening to feed the airbox. So this is what some people neglect to do. Don't realize this is blocked as well. They open this section, but that's not going to do much because there's no airflow going in. You know, everything is stopped on this tray here, actually to channel all the airflow into the radiators. And the one that's open is this one here, so you will end up pretty much with the same airflow if you only open this thing than if you don't open that plastic thing. So I'm going to cut it open this one as well, and cut it open this one, and I'll show you guys the final work anyway. So here's the final work, basically. Opening, I will have to give a good clean to this, remove any excess of plastic that was left there, give it a good file, good clean, and it goes back into its place. The other opening is this one here, as you can see is open now, match the other side. Now people use drills, use little blades or anything that you can get to cut the plastic. I recommend one of these multi-tools. Actually, it works perfectly. You can actually do a perfect cut there and around there as well. There's many attachments that you can buy. They're not really expensive, and if you're a DIY or at home, you will find use for these in many places. If you need to cut or access to something, you can actually use it to sand. There's many things that you can be attached to these multi-tools. It actually works very well here. So that's what I use to give a clean cut. These were the plastic bits into that section, and this is the large plastic bit that was sitting there. So now it's the hardest bit to do, which we should put everything together easily. Normally it's easy to remove than to put it back, so I'll have some work here playing around with all these plastics back. But anyway, now you'll have good airflow. I actually thought to open the grill as well here, these sections I could do with a multi-tool. Now spend some time here making a better look, a better job, because this is actually visible to the outside. But I'd say there's plenty of airflow going in, going underneath here and traveling up to the airbox. But eventually I'll get the grill replaced with something else. I have that in my mind, which will give a little bit better airflow into the radiators and to the airbox. But yeah, that's it. So here's the final job, everything together. Just the only thing is missing is to put the air filter and tidy up the airbox. This was actually not too bad, not too difficult to insert. Once this thing is out, actually I managed to put all the screws. This one here is the hardest one, but I basically, a little tip, I've secured this kind of 2 or 3 on each side, plus these 2 on the top that you leave it for last. But basically, to secure this plastic into the grill, there's a couple of screws here, you can see them, and the last one is at the center. Basically you can actually bend this out. This is actually scooped underneath this plastic, so you can actually bend it up, and with an extension you'll be able to screw them off first, these guys, so you give some structure to the grill, stays attached to this, and you leave this one for last, so you can actually bend a little bit plastic a little bit up to feed the end, tidy up. It's actually not too bad. Then you replace the bonnet latch there. It's a little plastic clip that went missing. There's no perfect jobs. It went flying when I was removing it somewhere on the engine bay. I'm not really worried about it. I'm gonna get a new one. They're two-part plastic clips. I thought they were just one single clip, so I was trying to push it and it just went flying. You basically remove the first little cap, get a little sharp edge thing there, and pull the little clip up, and then the whole thing it pops off. This one went missing. I'm just gonna I have a few probably very similar to these around here in the garage, but I'm not gonna bother to replace it. I'm just gonna get a new, exactly the same. They're just generic push plastic clips, and that's it. Everything is attached. 2 screws there, 2 clips at the front, 2 screws on the side, plus two other screws that hold actually the bottom of the scoop. And then just put this all together, and hopefully we have a better airflow.